for you," said the governor. So the Master Thief went to a shop and bought enough brandy to fill 2 pocket flasks, and he put a sleeping drink into one of these, but into the other he poured brandy only. Then he engaged 11 men to lie that night in hiding behind the governor's stable. After this, by fair words and good payment, he borrowed a ragged gown and a jerkin from an aged woman, and then, with a staff in his hand and a poke on his back, he hobbled off as evening came on towards the governor's stable. The stable boys were just watering the horses for the night, and it was quite as much as they could do to attend to that. "What on earth do you want here?" said one of them to the old woman. Oh dear, how cold it is!" she said, sobbing and shivering with cold. Oh dear, it's cold enough to freeze a poor old body to death!" And she shivered and shook again, and said, "For heaven's sakes, give me leave to stay here and sit just inside the stable door." "You will get nothing of the kind. Be off this moment. If the governor were to catch sight of you here, he would lead us a pretty dance," said one. "Oh, what a poor helpless old creature!" said another, who felt sorry for her. "That poor old woman can do no harm to anyone. She may sit there and welcome." The rest of them thought that she ought not to stay, but while they were disputing about this and looking after the horses, she crept farther and farther into the stable, and at last sat down behind the door, and when once she was inside no one took any more notice of her. As the night wore on, the stable boys found it rather cold work to sit still on horseback. "Hutetu, but it is fearfully cold," said one, and began to beat his arms backwards and forwards across his breast. "Yes, I am so cold that my teeth are chattering," said another. "If one had but a little tobacco," said a third. Well, one of them had a little, so they shared it among them, though there was very little for each man, but they chewed it. This was some help to them, but very soon they were just as cold as before. "Hutetu," said one of them, shivering again. "Hutetu," said the old woman, gnashing her teeth together till they chattered inside her mouth, and then she got out the flask which contained nothing but brandy, and her hands trembled so that she shook the bottle about, and when she drank it made a great gulp in her throat. "What is that you have in your flask, old woman?" asked one of the stable boys. "Oh, it is only a little drop of brandy, your honour," she said. "Brandy? What? Let me have a drop, let me have a drop!" screamed all the 12 at once. "Oh, but what I have is so little," whimpered the old woman, "it will not even wet your mouths." But they were determined to have it, and there was nothing to be done but give it. So she took out the flask with the sleeping drink and put it to the lips of the first of them, and now she shook no more, but guided the flask so that each of them got just as much as he ought, and the 12th had not done drinking before the first was already sitting snoring. When the Master Thief flung off his beggar's rags, and took one stable boy after the other and gently set him astride on the partitions which divided the stalls, and then he called his 11 men who were waiting outside, and they rode off with the governor's horses. In the morning, when the governor came to look after his stable boys, they were just beginning to come to again. They were driving their spurs into the partition till the splinters flew about, and some of the boys fell off, and some still hung on and sat looking like fools. "Ah, well," said the governor, "it is easy to see who has been here, but what a worthless set of fellows you must be to sit here and let the Master Thief steal the horses from under you." And they all got a beating for not having kept watch better. Later in the day the Master Thief came and related what he had done, and wanted to have the governor's daughter as had been promised. But the governor gave him $100, and said that he must do something that was better still. "Do you think you can steal my horse from under me when I am out riding on it?" said he. "Well, it might be done," said the Master Thief, "if I were absolutely certain that I should get your daughter." So the governor said that he would see what he could do, and then he said that on a certain day he would ride out to a great common where they drilled the soldiers. So the Master Thief immediately got hold of an old worn-out mare, and set himself to work to make a collar for it of green withies and branches of broom, bought a shabby old cart and a great cask, and then he told a poor old beggar woman that he would give her $10 if she would get into the cask and keep her mouth wide open beneath the tap hole, into which he was going to stick his finger. No harm would happen to her, he said. She should only be driven about a little, and if he took his finger out more than once, she should have $10 more. Then he dressed himself in rags, dyed himself with soot, and put on a wig and a great beard of goat's hair, so that it was impossible to recognize him, and went to the parade ground, where the governor had already been riding about a long time. When the Master Thief got there, the mare went along so slowly and quietly that the cart hardly seemed to move from the spot. The mare pulled it a little forward, and then a little back, and then it stopped quite short. Then the mare pulled it a little forward again, and it moved with such difficulty that the governor had not the least idea that this was the Master Thief. He rode straight up to him, and asked if he had seen anyone hiding anywhere about in the wood that was close by. "No," said the man, "that have I not." "Hark you," said the governor, "if you will ride into that wood, and search it carefully to see if you can light upon a fellow who is hiding in there, you shall have the loan of my horse, and a good present of money for your trouble." "I am not sure that I can do it," said the man, "for I have to go to a wedding with this cask of mead which I have been to fetch, and the tap has fallen out on the way, so now I have to keep my finger in the tap hole as I drive." "Oh, just ride off," said the governor, "and I will look after the cask and the horse too." So the man said that if he would do that he would go, but he begged the governor to be very careful to put his finger into the tap hole the moment he took his out. So the governor said that he would do his very best, and the Master Thief got on the governor's horse. But time passed, and it grew later and later, and still the man did not come back, and at last the governor grew so weary of keeping his finger in the tap hole that he took it out. "Now I shall have $10 more," cried the old woman inside the cask, so he soon saw what kind of mead it was, and set out homewards. When he had gone a very little way he met his servant bringing him the horse, for the Master Thief had already taken it home. The following day he went to the governor and wanted to have his daughter according to promise, but the governor again put him off with fine words, and only gave him $300, saying that he must do one more masterpiece of skill, and if he were able to do that he should have her. Well, the Master Thief thought he might if he could hear what it was. "Do you think you can steal the sheet off our bed, and my wife's nightgown?" said the governor. "That is by no means impossible," said the Master Thief. "I only wish I could get your daughter as easily." So late at night the Master Thief went and cut down a thief who was hanging on the gallows, laid him on his own shoulders, and took him away with him. Then he got hold of a long ladder, set it up against the governor's bedroom window, and climbed up, and moved the dead man's head up and down, just as if he were some one who was standing outside and peeping in. "There's the Master Thief, mother," said the governor, nudging his wife. "Now I'll just shoot him, that I will." So he took up a rifle which he had laid at his bedside. "Oh no, you must not do that," said his wife. "You yourself arranged that he was to come here." "Yes, mother, I will shoot him," said he, and lay there aiming and then aiming again, for no sooner was the head up and he caught sight of it than it was gone again. At last he got a chance and fired, and the dead body fell with a loud thud to the ground, and down went the Master Thief too, as fast as he could. "Well," said the governor, "I certainly am the chief man about here, but people soon begin to talk, and it would be very unpleasant if they were to see this dead body. The best thing that I can do is to go out and bury him." "Just do what you think best, father," said his wife. So the governor got up and went downstairs, and as soon as he had gone out through the door, the Master Thief stole in and went straight upstairs to the woman. "Well, father dear," said she, for she thought it was her husband, "have you got done already?" "Oh yes, I only put him into a hole," said he, "and raked a little earth over him. That's all I have been able to do to-night, for it is fearful weather outside. I will bury him better afterwards, but just let me have the sheet to wipe myself with, for he was bleeding, and I have got covered with blood with carrying him." So she gave him the sheet. "You will have to let me have your nightgown too," he said, "for I begin to see that the sheet won't be enough." Then she gave him her nightgown, but just then